All right. Part two, 2 Samuel chapter 12. Nathan rebukes David. The Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said, There were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb that he had brought. He raised it and it grew up with him and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. By the way, watch yesterday for context because David just slept with another man's wife, then sent him to have him killed. All right, so definitely go back to yesterday, watch part one. It's just called The Poet of Truth, and then listen to that first one, and then then you'll be able to be caught up with today. Now a traveler came to the rich man, verse 4. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for the traveler who had come to him. Instead, he took the ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared it for the one who had come to him. David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, As surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over, because he did such a thing and had no pity. Whew. Then Nathan said to David, You are the man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave your master's house to you, and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah. And if all this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me, and you took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. This is what the Lord says: Out of your own household I am going to bring calamity on you. Before your very eyes I will take your wives and give them to the one who is close to you, and he will sleep with your wives in broad daylight. Yo, that's crazy. Wow. Jesus. You did it in secret, but I will do this thing in broad daylight before all Israel. Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Nathan replied, The Lord has taken away your sin. You are not going to die. But because by doing this you have shown utter contempt for the Lord, the son born to you will die. After Nathan had gone home, the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife had borne to David, and he became ill. David pleaded with God for the child. He fasted and spent the nights lying in a sackcloth on the ground. The elders of his household stood beside him to get him up from the ground, but he refused, and he would not eat any food with them. On the seventh day, the child died. David's attendants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they thought, while the child was still living, he wouldn't listen to us when we spoke to him. How can we now tell him the child is dead? He may do something desperate. David noticed that his attendants were whispering among themselves, and he realized the child was dead. Is the child dead? He asked. Yes, they replied. He is dead. David got up from the ground after he had washed, put on lotions, and changed his clothes. He went into the house of the Lord and worshiped. Then he went to his own house, and at his request they served him food, and he ate. His attendants asked him, Why are you acting this way? While the child was alive, you fasted and wept, but now that the child is dead, you get up and eat. He answered, While the child was still alive, I fasted and wept. I thought, Who knows? The Lord may be gracious to me and let the child live. But now that he is dead, why should I go on fasting? Can I bring him back again? I will go to him, but he will not return to me. Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and he went to her and made love to her. She gave birth to a son, and they named him Solomon. The Lord loved him. And because the Lord loved him, he sent word through Nathan the prophet to name him Jedediah. Meanwhile, Joab, wow, I never knew that. To name Solomon. So Solomon's name is supposed to be Jedediah? He didn't change it? Well, see, Lord have mercy. Meanwhile, Joab fought against Rabbah, one of the Ammonites, and captured the royal citadel. Joab then sent messengers to David, saying, I have fought against Rabbah and taken its water supply. Now muster the rest of the troops and besiege the city and capture it. Otherwise, I will take the city, and it will be named after me. So David mustered the entire army and went to Rabbah and attacked and captured it. David took the crown from their king's head, and it was placed on his own head. It weighed a talent of gold, and it was set with precious stones. David took a great quantity of plunder from the city, and bought out the people who were there, co-assigning them to labor with saws and with iron picks and axes, and he made them work at brickmaking. David did all this to the Ammonite towns. Then he and his entire army returned to Jerusalem. So, I'm trying to figure out why Solomon's name wasn't changed to Jedediah. Um, okay, you know what? This is why we got to continuously read, right? This is why we got to read the books and we got to read these chapters and things like that because there's a whole lot. But David sabotaged not just himself, but when he didn't show mercy with the farmer and the baby lamb and the man who decided to kill the baby lamb, you know what I'm saying? God was like, all right, well, know that I'm not going to give you mercy in regards to the baby lamb. And I mean, yo, that's deep. You know what I'm saying? You sow a seed, you reap a harvest, even in the Old Testament, and it's more what's the word? I don't even know the word I'm looking for right now, but it's definitely stronger in the sense, or what's the word? Weightier, weightier. It's weightier a lot of the times in the Old Testament when it came to, you know what I'm saying, a lot of the things that happened. And David knew what he was doing. David knew that that was another man's wife, and he was like, "Well, I'm King David. I can do whatever I want." But he had other wives. That's the thing. And so it's like, you gotta have gratitude for what it is that you have. You know what I'm saying? You can't allow your lust to overtake you. This is where the self discipline comes in. This is where the important things, right? This is where you're like, hold up, wait, skirt. This ain't right. You can't allow your flesh to take over, especially when it comes to things like that, and then messing up somebody else's marriage. And then by the way that he was, ended up messing up, you know what I'm saying, a life, and the baby. So that really sucks, you know what I'm saying? So imagine if we actually made decisions and we actually made movements from the vantage point of what could be the worst thing that happened as a result of this decision, right? So that's the type of things that we kind of want to start to think about when it comes to not sabotaging our lives and the choices that we make. So be encouraged, think about things differently, and take it to a whole nother level and rock it out. All right, so God bless. Thank you so much for tuning in. Look, get some help. You know what I'm saying? Talk to people. Therapy is a beautiful thing. Hop into it. Stop playing around. Start taking those things seriously, because the longer you wait getting the things that you need taken care of, the worse it gets for not just you, but everybody involved and connected to you. So be encouraged. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, stop the sabotage.